Good evening, this is the July 29th, 2014 meeting of the Raleigh Conservation Commission. This meeting of the Raleigh Conservation Commission is hereby called to order under authority of MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, the Town of Raleigh Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and the Stormwater Management and Erosion Control Bylaw. This meeting is being video and audio recorded. And I'll call the roll for attendance. Mr. Delmonico is no longer here. Mr. Garner is absent. Ms. Keys is absent. Sam Strife.
Here.
Kurt Turner.
Here.
Doug Watson.
Here.
Art Page.
Here.
Okay. On to administrative items. I do have a request for reimbursement out of the expense account for purchasing various supplies.
Did we all sign this?
Yep.
Yep.
And just for your review and initialing, there are 3 copies of invoices.
I got caught up. Getting a little slow start here. That's the next time I saw Brent. I'll just like to do it. It's quite eventful. Good one.
That was all I had administratively, except for some of the various discussion items or.
I think we should probably wait for discussions. So just for the folks who haven't figured this out or just arrived, and for the sake of the recording, we are awaiting the arrival of a quorum, which we expect in about 15 minutes. So, sorry for the delay.
20 years plus on this commission, I think this is the first time this has ever happened.
Well, we take pride in having a forum.
Shellfish Committee, and I used to be on it, having quite a bit.
Yes, yeah.
And,
Right, it's your first time here, and what do we do?
Yeah.
Don't have a quorum, sorry.
I've been on many committees that I hear, especially it seems like in the summertime.
Yes. Well, I make an effort to kind of ask around about vacation schedules and make sure that we
Yeah,
think it
as I
through
say,
in
this
advance
is,
so that it doesn't happen.
Okay.
We finally went on the Shellfish Committee to call if you're not gonna make it.
Mhm. Yeah, well, that's true. Brent, you're pretty good about keeping track of people, and then I kind of ask people to let us know. Between the two, we usually know. So
Yeah.
this is unusual because of
Yeah,
the swearing in problem. Do you have the summer schedule for the clerk? Handy? Good part.
not
Look it up on
handy,
your phone, huh?
but the summer schedule basically consists of the fact that instead of staying open till 8, only stays open till 6.
Right.
I'd really have to,
On Mondays?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Mondays.
yeah, I think it was only Monday that she really stayed
I
open.
think it must have been Monday that I went by, after dinner, thinking, yeah, I'll
Yeah.
get this done. And-
Yeah.
But I didn't make a note of what the correct time was, so it's basically till 6 on.
Yeah, well, I had emailed that around in that last reminder thing,
I know you did,
so it's,
just didn't look at it.
so on Monday she opens at noon time, I think it is. And goes till 6. And then it's kind of a staggered thing.
Right.
It's Tuesday, Thursdays, and Fridays that you open in the morning. I could go pull it up on the website. Not open at all. Yeah, that's right. Not
Yeah,
open at all on
because
Fridays.
nobody's
so-
open on Friday.
Well, there's some town offices that are open
Oh.
Friday morning.
Treasure
None in this building.
Yeah.
They don't have it correct on their website. Our
No,
website.
no, they don't. There we go. Hi Judy, right here.
You on the town's website?
Yeah.
Are we under a water ban? There's a sign on
Yes.
Route 1, but is there anything on the water department's website or the other town's website that says that?
Thought I read it on the town's website.
Last time I looked, it wasn't there, but that was
Hmm.
over.
Oh, okay, well, I got Dave Delmonica waiting at the water department to come get you. You got a lot?
You got it.
Oh, okay, all right. All right, very good. So both you and Dave are headed this way. Okay, all right, then I won't call him then. Thank you. Bye. Okay, they both connected without my intervention.
Don't see it, Kurt.
This water department that the town is hired to notice.
Kind of chicken.
They sent, first bill I ever received, they're mailing, does not indicate that it has anything to do with water, I just threw it into my junk mail.
And what fool do you take me for? Send me a bill and I pay it.
Second water utility?
And I got the next bill. Or eventually, I actually went through my junk mail, and I was about 2 weeks late paying it, which meant that I was due to pay the full amount. I called them up and complained. The person who answered the phone was obviously a clerk of some kind. She said, well, take your request down, or this is gonna have to go before the town board of selection.
Wait, $1.50?
Yeah.
And I was peeved enough that I said, okay. Just lost the pieces. Then she went and tried for a process, she put a process on. And she said, oh, we'll take care of this. I said, "No, Shippy's son noticed that I'm getting a water bill in the mail the first time I ever came through. They still don't have anything. Yeah. And, you know, the first girl said, well, you should have read about it in the local newspaper. I said, well, I don't always read it.
The local newspaper's a little limited in a town like this.
Except if they would.
I'm gonna have to check, see whether that bill made it into the pay box or not.
Yeah, they would,
Because
they use.
Same thing would happen in my house.
Too bad. To work
It's kind
together.
of a well-known scam. Send people a
Yeah,
bill.
so
Some
it's-
percentage of them will pay it.
They don't send in a letterhead or anything?
The envelope just said Pennacook Company or something like that.
Yeah.
In a pen check.
She's on the way.
See, I got a well, so I don't know how they
Yeah,
come, but.
that's right.
I mean, at least the old one came, said Town of Raleigh Water Department.
Yep.
Gave you a good idea.
Well, I remember looking at it the first, maybe not the first, but at least the second time we got one, and I said, what's this?
Just somebody doesn't show up and,
But I did throw it away.
you know, two other attorneys,
The
or
lawyer,
the
yeah.
attorneys and like that, and they're sitting there and, you know, somebody doesn't show up. and
I always eventually get around to
Yeah,
truck
so
mail.
I can
Usually
see, oh,
take me a whole Red Sox box and last about 4 hours to
How much
get
cheaper?
around.
the attorneys-
Open everything.
That's your job.
Clean out the pennies and the nickels they send me.
Well, this takes the first time it happens.
Duty of baseball. Did something else about the same.
Call Brenda in the corner.
Who's the name? Where's
It's a
the
strange
name?
experience today. I wonder if anybody's had this experience.
Oh,
Yeah,
Today,
I basically had to just hand the school book out.
Citations,
Oh, I forgot.
uniform traffic
I could have, you know what, I
citations,
could have had somebody else.
which was just a
I
warning.
kind of wanted to
The
see
box
this.
is checked off.
Do the other one. I
From
felt
the
like
city of
I was
Newton
the other day just 'cause
on Saturday.
somebody's on the same-
For tailgating on Route 95.
What?
We were,
But if they win, they
that
lose
car,
it.
and my
Oh, well, I
wife,
just
who
texted
owns
them.
that car, were nowhere near Newton, Mass on
They're
Saturday.
winning.
I was with her all day and I know where she was, and she was not, she was at least 25 miles
Sitting
from
at
there.
home.
I used to run into that an awful lot when I was in the insurance business, and, then people come in and say, you know, it was with parking ticket mostly.
Uh-huh.
And, all they gotta do is copy down one digit wrong,
Yeah.
and most of the time you have to pay it and then
I'm sorry?
fight it. They don't allow you to fight it.
Right, I think
You're
they
supposed
told
to
me that.
pay.
You know, I think I've even had that experience with parking, but this was a moving violation.
Yeah.
Which is, I didn't think officers issued moving violations without pulling you over and having a chat with you about it.
Right, you got that number or not, that was
Late today.
I just found out this today, so.
Yeah.
Hi, thanks.
Sure.
They had the license plate right, had the make and model of the car right enough.
Because once you have license plate, you
Well,
can get to
once
make
you
a
get it,
model.
yeah.
Exactly, and they had her birth date right, and I'm thinking,
Well, that's all in there.
but that's all in the
Yeah,
computer.
pull that
Yeah,
all
yeah.
up,
As soon as
but-
they get one thing, they've got the rest. So it was a, small gray car, gets one digit wrong, and if the colors match, she thinks.
Well, that being a moving violation should get the, merit rating surcharge. I mean,
Yeah, except he did check the box, warning only, not violation, so maybe not. But I think it, it's still gonna count against you. Next time you get
Think it goes
a
to somebody else.
They're gonna look and say, well,
So many warnings.
you only get so many warnings, right, so, I just thought it was,
you do still have both plates on the car though.
I think so.
That's a scam too, they'll take the front plate,
I don't know, I don't look at the license plates on my car all that often.
That's exactly, I mean, you get
Yeah, I guess,
Is only one required?
yeah.
No.
No, once you go to
If
the,
it's,
to the newer plate,
yeah.
red and blue plate.
the only one
required to have
sticker,
front and back.
sticker goes on the back one. But,
There she goes.
Oh,
Fully dressed, dry.
Welcome to the.
You could come in your pajamas.
I hear some of you are illegals.
Yes. That, all our fault. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Judy, for rebooting your evening there. All right, shall we?
yep.
This is the 7:45 item on the agenda. This is a legal notice for the Raleigh Conservation Commission. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, General Laws 131, Section 40, as amended, in the Town of Raleigh Wetlands Protection Bylaw, a public hearing will be held on Tuesday, July 29th, 2014 at 7:45 p.m., Room 5, Town Hall Annex, 39 Central Street, to consider a notice of intent application filed by Cynthia Sincata, if I said that right, for proposed, because I think I did last time too, didn't I?
Yes.
For proposed construction of a subsurface sewage disposal system possibly within the 100-foot buffer zone of isolated vegetated wetlands at 814 Haverhill Street, map 5, parcel 24 in Raleigh.
Do you want the green cards, or do you want these?
And you are,
I'll make copies of them.
Welcome.
Hi.
How are you?
good, how are you?
Good. Just for the record, my name's Peter Blaisdell. I'm from Williams and Sparagus, located at 189 North Main Street in Middleton, Mass. The professional engineer representing Ms. Sincata and Mrs. Seaberg. So, not much to really discuss, other than they have a failed septic system. They're trying to sell the home. So we went out and did soil testing and met with Ed Gallagher and basically came up with the best solution would be to try to, fit as much into this small area as possible. Because as you can see, it's a very odd shaped lot. It's, kind of long, narrow. It's only about 10,000 square feet. And to, add to the challenge of it, we have an isolated wetland shown here, which is just, there's a slight, maybe one of the flags hangs over our property line by about maybe a foot or so, but it mostly runs down this existing stone wall. So we have, a jurisdictional issue with the commission here. So just shown on the plan here is a 25-foot no disturb zone, which, as you can see, a lot of it's already been disturbed. The 50-foot zone and the 100-foot buffer zone. So what we tried to do, working with the Board of Health, was to come up with a system that would fit on the lot and still stay out of the 50-foot buffer zone. So what we ended up doing is we're going to abandon the existing septic system. We may have to remove a little bit of it. We're going to add a new pump chamber, and we're going to discharge into a new Presby system. So the other issues that we sort of had going on are that at some point over the last 22, 23 years, the applicants had some trees removed in the area that were hanging down and that type of thing. So when I met with Brent, we discussed some mitigation. He'd like to see some of this vegetation restored. So we said, sure, we'll try to come up with something that I think everybody can live with. So I do not have a green thumb. So I saw his comment. I just threw in some trees here to be just kind of show you what we want to do, because some of the cutting sort of goes onto our abutter's property. We're in conversation with them right now. It's 10 Boxer Road LLC, so the applicant's been talking with them to see, if that's what they want to let us put plantings over there or not. I saw Brent's comments, so they said, written permission should be given. So I don't have that yet, but we're working on it with them. So if in fact they don't want us to put anything over there, I think we still have some room available on our property that we could, I'm sure, work something out reasonable with Brent. To replicate some of the some of the vegetation that was cut down. Other than that, I don't really have much more to say, unless Brent wants to fill in any details that I may have missed.
Brent, anything you'd like to
Well,
add to your memo?
yeah,
You've seen his memo.
I have, yes.
think use the memo as just a framework to guide the discussion, so
Right.
I am suggesting to the commission that first off, we should definitively declare that the jurisdictional wetland resource area is a local resource area, or isolated vegetated wetland. As Peter noticed, some of it may or may not be on this parcel, but doesn't stop us from saying what it is, so that we then can correctly identify the buffer zone. And I'm also making a suggestion that since the area that would normally be subject to being a no-cut, no-disturbance area, just have that be framed by where the current fence is, so.
Let's just,
Yeah,
The
so,
current fence is right here.
so basically, it would be a variable width where two of the proposed 6 saplings are displayed, and then over here, it actually would broaden out to be a 25-foot width area to go
Right.
extend out there. And I'm
Right.
suggesting that one single post with a resource area sign be installed. I just used this as a landmark, but basically would be put at the 25-foot edge, just to show that there is
just a
a regulated
cedar post
wetland
or something?
resource. 4x4 treated post with one of our resource area signs on
Sure.
it that we allow.
You can get the sign from Brent.
Sure.
I mean, just as part of the project, I think that would make sense to try and just inform future property owners that there is a resource area there and a restricted area.
And that should be shown on the revised as-built plan.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily, again, there sort of is a depiction right now, but it's not a practical workable depiction. We would just want it configured so that it uses the fence as the limiting factor and then expands out where it can on the property to be
Sure.
25-foot.
we can throw a stake there for them to set it when we go out and do the septic.
Yeah. And again, the suggestion, obviously, if the abutting property owner where a lot of the cutting occurred, if they don't wish to have any replanted red maple saplings put there, then that would certainly be revised to whatever should be appropriately configured for the property that is subject to this permit. And also making a suggestion that since we know there's a pool there, not that anyone would be looking to do this, but that we also just be precautionary and make a statement that there shouldn't be any discharge of pool water directly into the isolated vegetated wetland or the restricted no-cut area there, so just to curb any type of discharge that might be contemplated later on in there. But other than that, suggesting just regular conditions that would govern a residential subsurface sewage disposal system installation.
Okay. Comments by commissioners? On my part, I'd say that it'd be both prudent and we should put it in our permit that you get the permission from the abutter.
Yeah.
before you start planting.
The butter's also another client of ours, so
Well,
they're aware of it, so
Isn't that
we're
handy?
not gonna do anything without their
Right.
say-so anyways, so.
Right. And that may also just, in future years as people review this, help establish that where this property line is, this seems to be the problem. There's no problem with the pool water discharge limitation, I should assume.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
I guess that's it. Anybody else want to add? All right. In that case, anything you
See
want
if
to
there's
add?
anyone from
The audience. Thank you. An audience. Well, I recognize most of you, but not all of you. In that case, we would need a motion to close the hearing and issue an order of conditions containing the conditions we've discussed, plus those typical for a residential subsurface sewage disposal system. Do I have a motion?
So move.
And is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All against, and the record should reflect that Commissioners Delmonico and Watson did not vote.
Okay.
And that would apply to all of these. So, keep myself.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Oh, Brent, good luck. Thank you very much. I just checked before I came here, but you usually are ahead of me anyways, I don't know if you needed the file number on it, but.
No, I already have
You're
that,
good?
but I do need the other two plan sheets.
Sure, okay. We usually save you the paper, because I didn't think you wanted to look at
Well,
the
I
pump
want-
chamber and all that.
Yeah, well, you never can tell, who knows? I may
Do you
get
want
caught
a
up with
full
the-
size, or you want me to just email them to you?
Full-size hard copies, please, for the public record.
Absolutely.
Just, because I got, I just have sheet one right now, so.
Yeah, okay.
I'd like to have 2 and 3 for.
It's just one of those things where towns vary, we have some towns ask us not to bother sending them the extra paper, so, no problem, I'll put them in the mail to you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, good luck. Competent or confident?
Well, I'd like to think it's competency, because yes, if someone asks you to do a file review, and you're citing a plan as part of the public record, but you only have 2/3, or excuse me, 1/3 of the plan, you might say, well, what's on the other third?
It won't hurt to sign.
The
As long
subterranean
as there are
bond
enough
chamber?
good signatures, but you're right. It's also has to do with confidence though, because if we have, I think if we have more faith in the past and current record keeping of all the other town departments, we wouldn't be so careful about it. And for example, the Board of Health should have the complete set of plans.
Right,
They don't
and they
always.
more than likely do.
And they more than likely do.
They probably
but-
have, 4 sets, I think.
But it's always a good idea to double up.
Well, it's also a question of, if you don't have those 2 plan sheets, how do you know what's on it? Could have a totally incorrect detail of the erosion control,
I suppose.
which is typically where you do find it on
Yeah.
the second or at least the
In
third.
which
sheet.
case you'll call up Mr. Blaisdell and say, please revise.
Not that I'm saying that they would provide bad detail, but.
This is the 8 o'clock item on the agenda. This is a legal notice for the Raleigh Conservation Commission. This is in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws 131, Section 40 as amended, and the Town of Raleigh Wetlands Protection Bylaw. A public meeting is held on Tuesday, July 29th, 2014 at 8 p.m. on Room 5, Town Hall Annex 39 Central Street, to consider a request for determination of applicability application filed by Henrik and Bonnie Friss for proposed construction of a 16 by 24 above ground pool with catwalk, possibly within the 100-foot buffer zone of isolated and bordering vegetated wetlands at 14 Cindy Lane, map 6, parcel 10, lot 10 in Raleigh. Come on forward. That's why they have a walker, so
Can't get someplace to be.
yeah, that's right. Or as you call the pool. This is a parcel that we seem to see surprisingly often.
It's got a lot of wetlands around.
It's got a history.
Introduce yourself for the.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Jay Henshaw from Gibraltar Polls representing the homeowners.
Thank you. Yes, it has a history, not that directly relates to this pool, but it's just some sketches you look at and you say, oh, I remember this lot.
I've been here.
Yeah, I used to own that lot.
You
And ever
did?
since
That's
all
right.
of the, I've done everything I can do.
Right. Isn't this the lot where the machine fell in the,
The cement trucks,
the
but
cement
it
truck
started
fell in the
slipping
hole
into
or
the
something?
isolated
It
vegetated.
was your
wetland,
machine,
yeah.
I think, it was your cement truck, or at least
Just
there
another
for you.
$250,000.
Yes.
Okay, well, it's interesting.
Yeah, right.
It's cursed.
Where your house
No,
is, there
no.
used to be a hole, and where the hole was, basically the
Well, he's
dirt
not the
slipped
property
in.
owner. He's
Yeah, no,
representing.
not your house. I mean,
On the
house.
guy's first day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Remember going down there and looking at it and saying, well, that stinks. All right, so.
We'll try not to sink any tracks.
Yeah, please, please. So Have you read the memo?
Yeah, I just got it. Unfortunately, I'm not as familiar with this job as I'd like to be. I'm not the one that actually did the filing, but yeah, he got called out of town, so I'm here. I do get involved in this a lot though, so I can answer any questions you might have. It's, you've seen the site, it's pretty cut and dry. We've located the pool. They're gonna have to move the swing set, so we're gonna put the pool in the most level area you can, so we're gonna do minimal disturbance. Mostly just grading off the lawn.
So, Brent indicates there are no anticipated discharges associated with the operation of the pool.
No, we're gonna use a cartridge system, so it'll be self-contained.
Okay, so there's none of this, what do they call it,
Backwashing.
backwashing?
No
Doesn't
backwashing.
happen with this model, okay.
Is this orange box the pool?
Yes. That's the proposed location for it.
You walked on site? Look at
Yes.
this.
Well, I actually collaborated with Peter and we went to the site prior to the application filing to make sure the property owner understood that if they wanted to shift the pool's location, I can't remember what it was, 6 or 8 feet
Right.
away from the bordering vegetated wetlands, that they could avoid permit filing entirely, because the Wetlands Protection Act, under minor activities, says if your pool, it specifically mentions pools, if you're 50 feet or more away from edge of bordering vegetated wetlands or mean annual high water of the 200-foot riverfront area, that's associated with a single-family residence, that you only have to install appropriate erosion control. You don't need to file for a request to determine applicability. But they wanted, we just presented that option to them. They specifically wanted to locate the pool in the area as depicted, which is roughly, I think, 44 feet from the edge of bordering vegetated wetlands.
Looks like 39, maybe,
Yeah.
25 plus 14, 39. Yeah, I remember you and I talked about this. But the whole area out there is essentially
So, yeah, developed lawn.
all developed lawn, so.
Not quite exactly level, because those lots all do have a slight slope down to the swale. This portion of Cindy Lane was subject to a soil suitability permit prior to that bylaws being retired. That required an interceptor swale to catch runoff from the developed lawn areas and divert it actually to this particular lot for eventual discharge, actually pretty close to where the pool is located, just as a frame of reference to which part of the rear portion of that dwelling. So,
This is the septic field over here.
yeah.
Am I correct in reading this, that the roof drain drains into the septic field?
No,
Looks like it.
No.
On the plan.
no, it does not.
I think the roof drain arrow.
There's actually, I think there's a dry well, if I remember correctly, located in the front.
I think there were 2 of them.
Yeah, there is one in the front. I remember stepping on it.
See, I think there's a little arrow below the roof drain. It's the same thing over in the other corner. Is that where they are, the 2 front corners of the house? So my thought about moving it over 11 feet is, I don't think it has any environmental impact to leave it where it is. I think
No,
it's
well, this-
simply identical impact.
Again,
to
this
either
just
location.
happened to be a particular
Right.
regulatory
Right, right,
requirement that
right.
had the potential to affect this, and we wanted to make sure that the property owner was just aware of that.
Right, and we could say no, and they'd move it over 11 feet, but I don't think we'd be
Well,
doing,
there,
we wouldn't be
but there's
accomplishing
absolutely
anything.
nothing in
Right.
the interesting thing is, there's nothing in the regulations that presents the commission with any type of criteria that indicates that closer than 50 feet is somehow detrimental
Yeah.
or less, so really the commission should utilize, as I think we always try to do, the site-specific criteria as to where it's being located, any activities associated with long-term maintenance with this particular installation, there isn't any associated discharge or anything. So whether it's 25 feet, 35 feet, or 45 feet off of the edge of the wetlands, it shouldn't have any type of impact at all. It's on a previously developed turf grass lawn area, and so it's not going to impact any of the unaltered buffer zone, or it's already restricted as a no-cut, no disturbance area. So,
Is this where you and I saw the egret way out back?
Yes. So an egret there few years ago. I think it was back when you were still involved with the site. There was an egret there. Yeah.
That ponding area out back,
Mhm.
way up blue.
Any comments by commissioners?
Is there a, is that placed on stone or something like that?
There'll be masonry sand underneath the liner, but the bottom shell is gonna be on hard rock ground. There won't be, there's no need for a stone base.
Okay, how much sand?
Once we put the bottom channel down, the inside of the structure, we trowel a compacted 2-inch floor.
Okay. So you're not hauling a lot in?
No, what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring it in, place it there, build a structure around it, and then trowel it all out.
Any other comments by anyone? Comments by members of the public? Mr. Clark has already weighed in with his historical perspective on the site.
If we dig up a cement truck, should I let you know?
If
I'm
you
still
think
looking
you
for
can
it.
get it running,
It's under the septic system, it's where it fell.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
too.
driving across the septic system with a cement truck would not be advised at this point.
Any other comments you want to add, Brent, or?
Nope. Propose the kind of the typical conditions in regards to this.
I think I already asked you, but you did look at this memo. right?
Yeah.
And those conditions are presumably okay with you
Oh,
and
yeah.
your
Yeah.
customer. So.
And I actually don't anticipate that any erosion control needs to be installed in there, but we always put it in just in case there's something unanticipated that occurs.
I might still have a little silt fence anyway.
You're gonna do this basically right away, so they get some summer use out
I'd
of
like
it?
to try,
Yeah,
yeah.
so we probably aren't gonna run into big storms,
I'm sorry, I forgot, I left my phone in the car, and my dog kept dialing. Let me shut this thing down. My
Your
was-
dog kept
My
dialing?
my dog's out in the car, I was making phone calls. So, I had to take it away from her.
Turned you into the MSPCA.
She's from Puerto Rico, I don't know how many long distance calls she made.
She's gonna be losing money here.
He's very cordial to me.
I looked at the phone, she was walking all over, and I took it away, I looked at it, there were about 6 calls made.
Huh.
So,
Maybe you ought to passcode that phone.
yeah, can't trust those animals.
Um,
But, yeah, obviously, we'd like to do this as quickly as possible.
Sure.
I understand.
Just thinking about the weather and whether you're gonna need erosion control, but probably this time of year you probably won't. Just, we usually write it as just install it as necessary in
Right.
a typical way.
We're gonna be in and out of there in a day.
Right.
This is a pretty lightweight job, really.
All right, so unless there's anything else anyone wants to add, we would need a motion to close the hearing and issue a negative determination, option number 3, with the conditions stated in the memo. Do I have a motion? And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No against, and the motion carries. Thank you.
Brent, when will you be able to sign off on it for the permit?
I'm sorry?
When will you be able to sign off for the permit?
As soon as I get this written, so it'll be tomorrow.
Okay, I'll give you a call, and, so I can apply for the permit.
I signed the last one, even though I didn't
So
vote.
it's administrative act.
Oh, yeah.
So I should sign as well?
You can, sure.
It doesn't matter if we sign, as long as we don't vote.
All right, thank you.
This one, years.
Sorry,
How's the tub done?
Don't end up watching it.
That's the last one we saw, Joe. Haven't put it in
Was
the
it?
TV since you.
Yeah,
Thank God.
that was one of the worst looking months I've ever seen.
Hi, can I go home?
You can go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Have a good night.
See you later.
Yep.
Back in the McLaren days.
Yes, it was.
You been staying busy?
I'll go back until the end.
Unbelievable.
Go to bed.
Good.
Great.
I just sold a condo in downtown Ipswich, $650. I did the pro forma on it, I thought if I get $499, I'd be lucky.
Jeez,
So-
that's good. That's
Really?
good.
Yeah, things are doing great, and it saved what's possibly the oldest house in the United States on its original location.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Whereabouts in Ipswich was that?
6-8 North Main,
Yeah, I was gonna say,
yeah.
North Main.
1631 it
So they, what, turned it into one condo, or?
was. Nope, we made it into 2 condos, but we put 5,000 feet of building coming off the back of it,
Mhm.
and they're fabulous condos, if I do say so myself, but, I mean, historically, it suits what we tore down.
Mhm.
It saved the old building and incorporated it into the whole thing. And it came out way better than I thought it would.
Nice.
It isn't even plastered yet, so we got a ways to go, but
But it's under agreement, you
Did
said.
you see the memo?
one
One
is.
is-
I just had a chance to, thank you.
All right, so this is the 8:15 item on the agenda, new request for certificate of compliance, 63-485 for 208-212 Central Street, map 22, parcel 3, lots 1 and 2, Clark Associates, and Mr. Clark is here. So, you have seen the memo, or you just looked
I
at it?
got it, but I haven't had time to look at it.
Okay. Why don't you take you have a copy?
Yep,
Yes,
and
I
I
do.
can,
Why don't you take a minute and
sure.
Right, whatever happened to that? Was that here or someplace else? That old Ipswich schoolhouse that some guy in Raleigh acquired, and put it up on Main Street. I guess that was the,
I remember you talking about it, but I don't know that it has any connection.
no, it doesn't, but
This project is.
speaking of historical buildings.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember having a conversation because the gentleman came around getting building permits sign off, and I don't know.
We wanted CPA money for it, and we wouldn't do it.
Jeff, just to point out, there's 2 sides to the memo, so don't forget to turn it over. Surprising
I'm pretty
how
sure I
often
put
people.
page 1 of 2 as well in there.
Well,
Yeah, I know, it's just people don't.
That's good.
oh, and I did get that note today.
Okay.
I didn't finish till about 5:30, so I couldn't even call you.
That's okay. You didn't find a silk post in there, did you?
What?
A silk post? We'll have to see about that. Condition number 24. I couldn't comment on it because I couldn't see anything until you got things mowed, so.
Oh, whatever we need to do.
Well, right.
It's just a post to mark the.
Right, with some notches in it so you know when it starts filling up with silk, which
Okay.
probably
You
not.
probably mowed it.
No, I don't, no, he would have actually hit it.
I'm telling you, it was a
What is
testament to
that?
the Craftsman lawnmower. Trees this big around,
Really?
gone,
How big a mower do you?
big, 42-inch, 12 horsepower. Needs a lot of repair right now, though. definitely not made for that.
And how about the abandoned metal trailer with Derek?
That was one, Brett and I, in the original go-around on this whole thing, we talked about it. And we had thought it would cause more damage pulling it out than leaving it. But in discussion with Brent the other day, I can cut it up and carry it out. So I've agreed to do that.
Well, actually, yeah, now that the lots got developed, actually, there's an access corridor that you might have to take out one or two 1-inch diameter saplings to get the thing out if it could actually be dragged out. Otherwise, it is a safety hazard, and because, it is a safety hazard. And if it presented a problem originally, I can understand, although I told him he must have really gotten me at a weak moment, because normally I'm pretty insistent upon all
Trash.
man-made debris going out. Plus the fact that it is so rusty, it's a health hazard at this point in time. Anybody thinking that they could possibly step into it or rub up against it is gonna get a cut and have to have tetanus shots up to.
It'll be
Yeah,
gone within a week or so.
What was it?
It
A
was a
homemade
put-together trailer with a cable lift. You got a photograph.
Yeah, right here, but I mean,
You can't tell.
I'm familiar
I
with
think
it.
he used, I
I
think
can't
he
tell
used
what
it to take engines out of his airplanes.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, Mr. Hawksworth and his incredible Air
Oh,
Force
yes,
flying circus or whatever.
Right,
Yeah.
I know it. Yeah, I remember that.
Most of which is in another part of Rowley now.
Right.
Although some pontoons are still there.
All right. Okay, so you're gonna take care
I'll
of it.
cut it up, get rid of it.
All right. It's like a project. It's rusty, but it's not falling apart.
No, it isn't, but modern tools, they're great.
Especially Craftsman lawnmowers.
Yeah,
Yeah, but that's the kind of job you want to buy a kind of a cheap tool, because you're gonna ruin it
ruin
doing
it,
it.
yeah.
Okay, so those conditions all acceptable and understood?
Absolutely.
Any comments by the commissioners or by Brent? Anything like that?
No, there is as I was just discussing with Mr. Clark, silt marker post, which
Right.
I didn't know whether it was in the basin area or not.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to find out because I don't even know what it is, so.
Okay, well, what it is, and a lot of folks get those concrete tire stoppers that
Oh, yeah,
that
yep.
they put, and you stand it on end, you mount it, and then you notch it where the surface of the basin is.
Existing.
Existing, and then you either do 4-inch, in your situation, I would do 4-inch notches going up it, so that you know when it starts to silt in and can clean it out, because otherwise you have to have have the basin resurveyed
Okay,
to figure out, to establish what the original elevation was.
okay,
But this is just to keep it simple,
yep,
stupid kind of trick, so you don't have to pay for the surveyors, because you can just go by the notches
sure.
in the concrete post.
And I did have one other question. I was taking down all the vegetation in there. There are two pretty nice poplar trees that are, they almost qualify as at the top of the berm, but not quite. So before I took them down,
Weren't those the ones we talked about, and I said to leave them? I
Well,
talked
then-
about two fairly substantial.
well then we don't need to talk about this.
Right. If they're at the top of the berm and they just blend in and look like they're your street landscape trees.
No, this one is a little taller, and if you want, we can look at it.
All right, well,
But it's about it. It must have started growing like when the berm went in. And it's a really nice tree, and I thought, what a shame to knock that down, and it's not in the retention area.
okay.
All right, so, need a motion to issue, if there's no further discussion, I need a motion to issue a complete certificate of compliance with the ongoing conditions stated in the memo, contingent upon field verification of site conditions, so you've got the question of that tree,
Mhm.
and the silt stick, silt marker,
Yep,
and I suppose the metal
Make
trailer.
sure the trailer's going on. Give him 14 days.
14 days enough?
It'll be plenty, yeah.
Okay. Contingent upon review of site conditions as just stated within 14 days. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And all against? And the motion carries.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
That, ever since I've gotten into junking stuff, it's like I can't wait to pull that trailer out of there. It's $100 sitting there.
Where do you take the,
Salisbury.
yeah, that's what I was just gonna say, that, from what
That's
I've
where all
heard,
the
that's the
stuff
guy who
from
pays
Pingree
the
Farm.
most.
And
He'll
it's
take
cash.
most everything.
And it's, well, yeah, but they take your picture. But I used to pay, when I buy an older house, I'd pay somebody $300-400 to pull out the old boiler. The last boiler I pulled it out, and I got $1,200 junk for it.
Because it probably had some brass and bronze and
A little
interesting
bit
stuff in it.
copper, but mostly it was cast iron, 10 cents a pound right now. And you know, those things will weigh 1,000 pounds,
Cast iron.
plus all the other stuff.
Right. No. Yeah, that guy has a pretty good business, the Salisbury guy.
And then,
Where was that? Oh, where is that?
Two of them in Salisbury, one of them is on Bridge Road, the other one is,
I think it's the other one that I'm thinking of.
the one on
Yeah.
236
Causeway.
there.
yeah,
236, yeah.
They're very nice people for junkyard owners, you know? No big dogs.
That's what I was just gonna ask, how's their dog?
No, they don't have one.
No barbed wire fences.
No.
They don't have,
Clean operation, it's unbelievable.
yeah,
Uh-oh.
there's a lot of money in that.
That makes it suspicious, right?
there is.
I used to work on 2nd Street in Chelsea.
Wow.
That was unbelievable. And when I worked there, it was still cobblestones.
Those are worth more than the junk nowadays.
Yeah, exactly.
Not cobblestones anymore because somebody stole them.
Well, it is Chelsea.
Yeah.
If it's not nailed down, it's stolen.
So you're on this Dexter Drive one too? The,
Yes.
yeah, okay. So this is a request for certificate of compliance 63-59722 Dexter Drive, map 22, parcel 3, lot 1-4. Clark Associates owned by John C.
Eulisham.
Ulishin. And you are reading the memo as?
I read this one too.
Okay.
May have been my superficial reading of this, Brent, but in regard to the matter of the southwest rear corner down pipe discharging from a subsurface pipe onto a ledge where recently loam has been deposited and not stabilized, surface gullies and rills have developed in the approximately 60 square foot area. It doesn't seem to be addressed anywhere later on as to what's going to be done or not going to be done about that. I'll recommend it.
Soil.
That's why he's here.
Soil, erosion control will be put up within the next couple of days. Soil will be stabilized as soon as that grass will start growing. And it was the home, I did talk to the homeowner, and they were starting to put a little garden in there and didn't know about all this stuff, so.
Gonna leave the discharge the way it is, or were you thinking of what we talked about on site?
I was thinking
Of
maybe,
possibly moving it over to the grass area.
I wanna run a snake down through it to see where exactly it's going first. And then, if necessary, we can slide it over. But there's so much ledge on that lot that it's hard to find a place to dig.
Mm-hmm.
As she said, there was less than 1 inch of loam on top of that rock.
Which is the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I didn't know.
Yeah, it won't support grass.
So Brent, based on what I'm inferring from your memo, the lack of subsurface dry wells it seems to have been solved effectively by discharging the runoff to grass surfaces and infiltrating it across a pretty good space.
Right, but we need the engineer's statement.
To say that.
Didn't address any of this, and we believe inadvertently got presented with more as-built of the whole subdivision instead of an as-built of this specific lot, which then should have, addressed those things.
Right.
Or at least by not depicting the dry wells, his letter should have stated that because of ledge, dry wells, and so we're doing overland.
So we're asking for a new letter, not necessarily a
And
new plan.
a new plan too, or the correct plan, because we got a whole subdivision plan
Right.
instead of that
Yeah,
particular lot.
I've asked him to do a separate lot for it.
I copied him on the emails when I emailed
Beautiful.
these out. So.
All right, so you've spoken to engineering line services and
Yep.
got that straightened out, okay. Because it was the wrong scale anyway, right? This is,
Well,
I mean,
right, but that is because of the depiction of the whole subdivision
Correct.
instead of just focusing on that single lot.
yes, right.
And that had the silt fence still around it, this particular lot had the silt fence still around it.
And that was my error.
Yeah, but again, that's all easily correctable, so again, I proposed, I think, the 14 days.
Yeah,
Read both sides again.
I did.
Survive?
I only make the same mistake 2, 3, 4 times, and then I learn.
Is this street all built out now?
It is complete, ready for the town for acceptance and everything.
Five homes on it?
4. The 5th is actually Sue Hawksworth, since she was there all along.
Right, I remember that.
That rings a distant bell.
My neighbors on Hillside bought one of these, what was their name? They moved from
The
Hillside.
Willises.
The Willises, yeah,
Yeah.
Kevin Willis, Kevin,
Yep.
I forget his wife's name.
He's hardly home.
Oh, he travels more than anyone I know, including the president.
Exactly, he's,
Always in like, Korea. or
hey, where are
something.
you today? China.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Word length is spelled wrong on the
What's spelled wrong?
plan. Word length in the legend.
Well, the engineer's from Haverhill.
No big deal. You say engineers can't spell?
Not if they're from Haverhill. Gosh,
Right.
that doesn't go over well with a member of the Haverhill Conservation.
Oh, I knew he was, I knew
I
he said it.
I'm not parental about Haverhill, I just moved there myself.
All right. Anything else anybody wants to add or question, discuss? All right, so in that case, I need, again, a motion to issue a complete certificate of compliance with the ongoing conditions stated in the memo and also contingent upon field verification of site conditions and revised plans within 14 days. Do I have a motion
So, motion.
and a second?
Second.
All in favor
Aye.
and all against, and the motion carries.
Thank you again.
Which one's 22?
It's the left-hand corner.
This one is where the ledge was.
Basically, when you turn left onto that road, ledge everywhere. When I first bought it, I could see all the little knobs, but I had no clue as far as how deep it was. It was a college education, I'll tell you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
That plate out there was cute.
Hmm?
That plate out there was cute.
Did you?
Well, the further back.
I just then back to the apartment. Yeah.
agenda items. Limits and enforcement, so unless you want to start with something else, I'm curious if we've had any feedback from Mr. Caffarelli
No,
on Hillside, Weather Street.
yeah, that's the encroachment on conservation open space.
I drive by there every day, and I think the plastic shed building is still there, at least it was not too long ago.
Yeah, I haven't even gotten the return receipt card back. He may have had his hands full recently.
Is this the one I mowed last
Oh,
year?
that's true. That could be.
Well, last Thursday, he was also televised on
Yeah.
Channel 5.
Mr.
investigative
Caffarelli is
reports.
the chief of police of the city of Revere,
Is that right?
so he might have been busy yesterday.
Yeah, maybe,
Yeah, but was that the,
pardon me?
was that the property that I mowed, you had to go out and inspect before?
A couple of years ago.
Yeah, maybe 2
Yeah.
years ago, yeah.
Oh, at least if not 3. Yeah.
All right, but I didn't notice any of this stuff on there when,
No.
back then, yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know, I can track it sort of back through the aerial photography. It's been there at least 2 years, but the commission wasn't gifted this property until 2012.
Right.
Okay.
And so, whether it was there or not, before it came into our ownership as protected open space, that wasn't necessarily an issue because the Bank of New England took that property, foreclosed on it, as well as the lot where that house is also, the Caffarelli's house, because they bought their lot from the bank.
I guess Revere doesn't have a residency requirement?
Yep. There are other Revere policemen who live in Raleigh. I know 2 of them at least.
I know
Up to it.
somebody who used to have that as a beat.
So I did,
Okay, so we gave him in your letter till a while.
I said these actions should be completed by Tuesday, August 19th. I just, tried to correspond that with the commission's meeting.
Yep.
And I stated that I would conduct a follow-up visit during the week of August 10th.
Okay, so just, we'll see.
Well, under the circumstances of what Revere is going through right now, it seems to me if that poses a problem, we should cut them some slack.
Yeah.
Make an adjustment on the fly.
Yep, but that's still almost.
Well, you don't even have a full day's work here.
Yeah.
To-
It's just a plastic shed. It's-
Plastic shed, the
Right.
boat trailer's got wheels, it's a mobile boat trailer.
Right.
The pile of cobbles or pavers, that is a couple hours' work. Pulling the fence posts up and relocating them, pulling them up shouldn't actually take that long. And ceasing the mowing and moving the fire ring, which I believe is just constructed out of more cobbles leaving a circle.
Right.
That, technically you could get that done in a good morning.
Right.
As long as
But if he gets in touch and needs more time, I mean, we can be
Oh, yeah.
flexible about it.
Yeah,
But we've given him enough time, so I don't think we need to be worried about it at this point.
No.
He hasn't responded. He's got plenty of time, he or they. Okay, so that was the one enforcement item that I was thinking about, probably because I do drive by it all the time. What else do we have enforcement wise?
well, I don't know, there's some different categories here, just some things that we did wish to go over. What's the next thing I gave you in
320 Central Street?
320 Central Street?
Mr.
Now,
Ryan.
that
is
is,
complaint.
right, now, Mr. Ryan resides, and I believe I copied you both the letter, the email correspondence that we received. I think I also copied you on my reply to him. I consulted with Town Administrator Deborah Egan, and she suggested the structure of my reply, since there was numerous items issued. And I believe just the other day I was provided with a copy of the letter he authored to the Board of Selectmen. So I think you have the two correspondences authored by Mr. Ryan of 311 Central Street, and then my response. Now, I can tentatively tell you and provide you with photographs that and this is our pictometry of the site.
On the Central Street
Well, it's hard for me to reference it to anything other than to say it's where the dog kennel is
Okay.
and the trailer for doing the invisible pet fence. And then there's all sorts of piles of debris. Based on, well, making an assumption, I haven't had a discussion with Mr. Ryan. I'm here to get some guidance from the commission tonight. I stopped along the side of the road and just did a view from the town's right-of-way, and that's the picture, the two images that are in front of Chairman Watson at the moment. This particular property, based on the assessor's records, indicates that it was developed or built upon in the late 60s, early 70s. Now that is prior to the Wetlands Protection Act. I cannot tell you about the various articles piled there, other than from the street, there are some piles. One of those piles is concrete debris, which may be construction and demolition debris.
This one.
Because it's broken up cinder blocks. It appears to be broken up cinder blocks and maybe broken up concrete slab. That may or may not be in the town's right-of-way, but it's not in bordering vegetated wetlands, but it is in the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands. From the aspect of the road, and also the fact that the commission does have documentation on this abutting property down here, which I cannot remember what the address is right off the top of my head, but we had a replacement septic system done there, and actually I've had some correspondence from that property owner about his desire to put a fence along the frontage. At the time that property was delineated, it showed bordering vegetated wetlands between the dwelling, driveway, and this property. Looking at it from the right-of-way on the road, both the property of 320 and the roadway roadbed slope down and give me the feeling or the supposition that it was filled. So I'm speculating that 320 Central Street, the property that is being complained about by Mr. Ryan, may have been filled when it was developed and structures were built on it, because it appears that all the area where these piles of debris, piles of loam, and other things are, is all level. But then what I can see visually, looking about 30 to 20 feet in from the right of way, all slopes down into the wetlands. There is no indication that there is any transport of any of these materials going into the wetlands. I also need to state that I do not definitively know exactly where the property boundary is. So I have not contacted Mr. Ryan, nor have I contacted the owner of this property, who's listed as William J. Cuddy. I can't visually see anything that today I would equate to the commission as being a violation or an active degradation of bordering vegetated wetlands.
I did drive by there today, and it looked like there were piles of dirt. They'd probably been there a while with grass growing out of them, and they were removing it.
Yeah.
The sun is a landscape,
I was gonna say, there's a bobcat there, and there's what may be a static
so he might be
sifter
fixing
for,
that, yeah.
for screening. Well, anyway. So I'm looking for guidance from the commission. If you wish me to contact Mr. Cuddy and try to seek permission for entry onto the property. You know, the only basis for it is a letter of complaint, and
So where's the wetland? How do we get, what jurisdiction? You said it's in the buffer zone?
this is forested, bordering vegetated wetlands here, so 100 feet extending onto this property, but it may not be a hole, that could be a pile of loam.
That's the loam, I think they're freshly.
Well,
I
this.
think it's been there a while.
This photo's from April of this year.
Oh, okay. Well,
That's when
was-
this photo was taken.
Okay. This was, I went there today, and it obviously
Today,
moved
there's
quite a bit
6
of
to
it.
8 foot pile of loam, more to the interior of the property, but still possibly within our buffer zone. Now, Mr. Martin is correct about the fact that no erosion control is being utilized there. But we've had no permit for any type of activity where we would have required erosion control. Now, under the Wetlands Protection Act, on a previously developed lot, that may or may not have been filled, you don't know whether this is a commercial enterprise or not either. We don't normally go onto a lot
Right.
unless we know that there is some activity happening that is altering, dredging, filling, or removing a regulated wetland resource area. Buffer zone that may or may not, prior to the Wetlands Protection Act, be an area where fill was deposited and has been graded level for development of the lot. We don't normally, well, under the criteria I just gave you, it's not an alteration, it's not
Right.
filling, it's not removing, and it's not dredging.
Right.
It's a previously developed lot that now it's buffer zone, and if an activity was proposed to us, we possibly would, regulate that. So the activity of them putting piles of various materials on this level area, I guess that is the question before the commission as to whether,
Dave, can I take that?
What is this here?
whether that's the jurisdiction. That's an in-ground pool.
And what is this giant Coke bottle?
That's a boat with a white tarp over it for winter storage.
Is Mr. Ryan's wife on the old age council? They live over here somewhere, right?
I believe they live right here. This is where we just had a replacement septic system, and in fact, that is the silt fence that he was not happy about installing.
Why do I have to do it if they can do this?
Well, I think his wife is on the old age council.
I know this property came before us a long time ago. Kurt might remember, when they wanted to put in, I can only describe as a swimming pool for horses. Do you remember that? It was sort of a trough-like thing
No, but the
that
size
they
of
were
it.
rehabbing injured horses. They were supposed to be able to swim in this
Yeah.
trough thing that they proposed to build.
They do something with dogs there too.
Well, there's a sign,
Breed
this
them.
steel roofed building has a sign in front of it that indicates it's a kennel
Mhm.
and that it also offers dog groom.
Right.
They have some big French or Belgian breed of dogs.
Yeah,
They also board dogs.
Yeah.
lady I used to carpool with, she lived in Boxford, and they had bought a dog from that place.
I don't think they do much with horses. So,
No, I
That's
think-
previous owner.
Well, I think you raise a good question, Brent. This is not this kind of situation we normally would attend to. There's no activity, there's no,
Well, the activity is simply piling
yeah,
material which appears to be being piled on a level surface.
right.
Yes, it does appear to be in the buffer zone, but, yeah, it's the piling of material because apparently he does most of it.
Mr. Ryan says he's piling it on wetlands and then shifting it and dumping it back on wetlands.
Well,
Have you talked with him directly?
no, I have not talked to him directly, but I have no firsthand evidence, based on my being in the right-of-way and looking over there. I'm not sure that Mr. Ryan knows how to correctly identify. And what he means by wetlands, I'm not sure, but none of that debris material is in bordering vegetated wetlands.
Right, that you're pretty sure. It may be in the buffer zone, probably.
Just
yes.
looking at the change in topography from the abutting forested bordering vegetated wetlands that we know from a past delineation that I think is only like 4 or 5 years old now, I would be highly suspect that that change in topography, which is more than likely from historic fill, could possibly support the hydrology that there would be wetlands vegetation where those piles of debris are.
Well, I mean, the only thing you could do is ask him for permission. He has no obligation to grant it. We have-
Mr. Cuddy.
Yeah, we have no basis for an enforcement order as things stand. We don't have any information, so.
Correct. I don't even believe there's a basis for a notice of violation letter.
No, not without entry and discovering something, so it's not usually the way we have acted in the past. I don't know, what do anybody else think?
Well, it's difficult unless Ryan has photographic evidence of filling over there and can demonstrate there's wetlands.
I mean, to be quite honest with you, and I would certainly defer to your recollection, my recollection is that I have never taken action such as asking for entry onto the property without some type of direct visual confirmation that there's an activity going on that is altering, dredging, filling, or removing bordering vegetated wetlands or some other protected wetland resource area. I don't even usually author a notice of violation letter unless I have some type of visual confirmation that there is grounds for, making that type of communication. That might be an arbitrary way of pursuing things, but that's sort of what we've adopted as a protocol.
Because the alternative is to just go barging in places with no, I mean, you get burned doing that. You walk in there and say, you think there's a violation, and it turns out there isn't a violation, you have no basis for it. And I don't think that's the way we would want you to behave.
And you don't want to get involved in a neighborhood fight either.
Well, that's right.
Well, that's right. I mean, usually asking permission to enter onto some property is usually initiated or precipitated by some type of justifiable visual indication that there is an activity going on that might be subject to regulation. We've, in the cases of stockpiles, or piles of materials, there has been times in the past when the commission has asked me to check into the piling of material. The piling of firewood along Route 1, Newburyport Turnpike would be a good example. Stockpiling of material on Mr. Coughlin's property, was probably another good example. In both of those instances, action was only taken because I could see from the right-of-way, I could see that there was, in the case of the firewood, there was recently deposited gravel fill that was in bordering vegetated wetlands or directly adjacent to it. In the case of the incredible moving stockpile at Mr. Coughlin's property, there was the fact that the stockpile was moving downhill, was not stable, and was entering the 100-foot buffer zone on a property that had an order of conditions and no erosion control was being implemented.
Right. And none of those things apply here.
None of those things seem to be going on here. At least I cannot get visual confirmation giving me the hint that that's what's happening, where the debris piles are located.
I don't have a basis for coming to any other conclusion, but I do think that you owe him another communication indicating that the commission has reviewed the circumstances and have not found any basis for taking any action. However, you know, he may still wish to talk to the other departments that you've referenced in previous communication.
Yeah, that's, it
Basically-
has been all copied. In fact, the selectmen's, the communication from Mr. Ryan that went to the selectmen on July 28th, that was copied to Ken Ward, the building inspector, and also Frank Conchiarni of the health department. If I may, since I anticipate that either one or both of those departments may be making a visit to the property, may I wait and just converse with them? The Board of Health may be visiting because of the issues of dust, noise, and also the fact that the concrete debris in the photograph is construction and demolition debris and therefore a solid waste. So they may be visiting the site based on those items of possible interest. Building inspector, I don't know, it's a zoning issue as to whether they're conducting a commercial business in an area zoned for residential, that's all zoning.
If the son is doing landscaping, he may well be planning to use those rocks to split them up and do walls or something, but I don't know.
Using it as solid fill, I mean, sometimes do use concrete for fill.
But you do sort of indirectly promise to communicate back with him in the last sentence.
Oh, well, yes, because I wanted to, since our meeting was coming
Wanna
up
have
here, I
some
wanted to
guidance, yeah.
converse with you,
Yeah,
and I wanted to, you know, take whatever appropriate action you felt to direct me to.
Well, it sounds like the consensus here is that, based on the evidence we have today, no action is appropriate, but you may get some more evidence from visits by other town representatives, and that may change things. And if he inquires again, in the meantime, you can say that to him, you're awaiting reports from, you don't have a basis for acting yet, but you may have one after they visit, if they visit, which is their call. All right,
But currently, I could state that based on travel in the town's right of way of Central Street and viewing the piles, that there just wasn't any activity that appeared to be actionable under wetland regulations.
I think we can also reference the fact that you used aerial surveillance methods, other than drones. Well, the reason I say that is because it acts as a potential deterrent to him or anybody else doing something at another time, that the fact that we are able to do this.
right.
And that it's one more piece of evidence in his favor.
Right. All right.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that advice.
Let's go with that one.
I think, is the next item that I copied you on the letter that I issued to the, or the memo to the zoning board of
Yep.
appeals?
On Blair, anonymous complaint.
Right. And I think copied on the back of that, maybe, is there a copy on the back? Yeah. Is the copy on the back, the email from Debbie Egan, town administrator? Because I didn't know what the zoning board of appeals, because they apparently discussed it outside of their tape recorded meeting, so I could, don't know. What they talked
Well,
about.
as I recall, Brent, the way you explained it to me was, you got this anonymous complaint, you routed it to, or you checked with Ken Ward, who said, send a memo to my board. So you did.
Well, he said to the zoning board of appeals.
Yeah, to the board that
Yeah,
does appeals for my decisions. And then the feedback from the board was, well, that's not really how it works.
Right.
We respond to Mr. Ward's responses.
To the respondent who
Right.
receives a communication from the building
Right.
inspector in regards to a possible zoning violation, then that would be appealed or referred to the zoning board of appeals if the property owner who received that communication was not in agreement with it.
So the question is, it's not really a question for us, more for the town, is why does Ken Ward not act on this anonymous complaint?
Right, which was
That's their.
why
protocol.
Debbie was then directing the communication to Mr. Ward.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know, I haven't heard anything back from
Right.
Mr. Ward as to whether he's made a site visit or done
Right.
anything further, but that's where it stands at this point in time.
You just mentioned aerial surveillance. This Blair matter, 887 Haverhill Street, is a great example of where aerial surveillance or aerial information,
Right.
photometry, I guess, really, not surveillance, was the key bit of information.
Yes.
That's what.
It clearly shows commercial scale activity occurring right in the property, especially the 2014 meetings show. Since we're talking about stockpiles, it shows another large with heavy equipment working on it. So it's now in the building inspector's corner.
Right. So there's nothing we can or should or.
No, it's just a status report at this point in
Right.
time,
Right.
as well as DEP continues to work with the property owner on their administrative consent order for the.
Well, there is one other thing that you mentioned to me and that I think is interesting, is that the ACO, the Administrative Consent Order, which requires a timeline for the property owner to deal with this, which he signed off on, seems to already not be in compliance, from what we know. But again, it's not our
We don't
enforcement
make a
issue.
decision,
Right.
and I contacted DEP, and he told me to have patience.
Have patience. Okay.
He first questioned me why I was calling him, and I said, well, my board, who I work for, wishes to know the status of this.
And then he said, have patience. State.
Anyway,
All right.
so that's just a status report on that.
I think that's all the stuff you gave us.
Yes, I do. So I do. I wanted to let you know about another complaint I received. I received a complaint. At this point in time, I'll just say it was anonymous, that involved tree cutting at 280 Dodge Road. 280 Dodge Road is property directly adjacent to the lot where the dam is located on Lower Mill Pond. It recently changed hands and had a replacement septic system constructed in the front yard, basically, in front of the residence, between the residence and the street, on the highest, most corner of the property. The reason that is germane is because in order to do the septic design and plan, resource areas were flagged and a delineation and riverfront was shown on the property. I received a phone call complaining about tree cutting that was occurring on the property. The two trees in question that were being cut by Steve's Tree Service are eastern white pines that were directly adjacent to the driveway, and this particular one is overhanging a shed which is there. The reason I proceeded out to the property while the tree service company was there, because I was told it was happening right then, was the fact that the plans on file with the Board of Health had a recent wetlands delineation down here, as well as showed the 100-foot buffer zone coming up here, involving that tree, and the 200-foot riverfront area from the stream as it exits the dam, encompassing both of these trees, whereas just this tree was in the 100-foot buffer zone, barely.
what was occurring out there is the property owner was apparently having what they considered hazard trees removed from the developed portion of their property. Now, the commission in the past, when I've received calls ahead of time, I have done a site visit, given the okay for it to occur, and I have worked up a form that has our standard conditions for the tree being removed, depending on what the situation is, the tree being removed, stump left in place, ground down. Now I found out that Steve's Tree Service, since the two gentlemen were there and were nice enough to stop work and talk with me, that is what they were going to do. They were taking the entire trees down, removing them. There was also one stump over here that they were going to grind, and then these two stumps were going to be ground in place. So seeing how they were following what would have been our normal recommendations if we had been called prior to the activity taking place in a regulated area, I told them to proceed, and I haven't done anything. I didn't do any follow-up with the property owner. The property owner was not there at the time this was being done during working hours, and I assumed they were off at work somewhere. So I just wanted to check in with the commission, not in regards to reviewing the actions I take, because I believe I was following our normal standard protocol. But I didn't know if you wanted me to issue an after-the-fact communication to the property owner, alerting to them to the fact that they had tree cutting activity that was occurring in areas regulated by the commission, and that normally in the future they should have called the commission.
It doesn't look like they have many trees left.
No, no.
But, and that was all mowed around there anyway, there was yard,
It's
right?
developed lawn, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, where,
After watching TV yesterday, a lot of people are gonna be taking trees down.
yeah, but the lots in Revere don't necessarily have
Yeah, right beside
Lower
that.
Mill Pond next to them with bordering vegetative wetlands and, floodplain and, it's possibly an opportunity for education of the property owner that they are directly adjacent to sensitive wetland resource areas. I realize it wouldn't be high on my list of things to do, but again, I will follow the guidance of the commission if you do wish me to have just a minimal after-the-fact communication with them. Normally, we don't step in for trees that are in the midst of lawn and although I couldn't talk to them, I speculated, because they were kind of limby pine trees, that they were probably taking them down thinking that they were a hazard to their shed and their vehicles parked in their driveways.
He's a new owner, so
Yeah.
he's not familiar with what's going on, so I would say yes to that.
Sure. Yeah, why not? And just alert him to the fact that there is a conservation commission in town, and I'd like to be involved when there's decisions made.
You said there was an anonymous complaint?
Yes.
Assuming that you might know without saying, it might be useful to get back to the complainer, or hopefully the complainer is watching this on TV, to know that some follow-up
I think
occurred.
they probably watched me when I showed up.
It was all right. I can guess who
But anyway.
who the complainer was. But it's good that, that the person who complained was alert to the fact that there was wetlands nearby and might be a source of concern.
Well, on the one hand, not wishing to be intrusive or overly regimented, not knowing what the extent of work may have been, and the fact that there are many other trees on the property. Here again, it turns out the project was rather limited and more than likely very realistic.
Right.
But, yeah.
I'm sure we would have allowed it, as you say, if it had come before us before.
Absolutely. And would have basically, said the same thing, it's exactly what they had hired the tree service company to do, remove all the material from the tree, don't broadcast the chips into the wetlands or anything, and grind the stumps down to minimize any earth disturbance.
Right. Well, hopefully the tree company is a little bit more sensitive to the possibility that ask homeowners, have you checked with your conservation?
Okay. And one final question that is a pre-application question, and I can't remember, I may have mentioned this to Doug and Kurt, but Mark Savory on Route 1 Newburyport Turnpike, where he has a lot, I think he's just uphill of the Fudge place. He has a lot there that has multi-levels, and he sells cars and other vehicles. One of the wetlands that was delineated on Mr. Coughlin's property, the Forest Ridge project, comes down to an upper level, comes through the woods to an upper level of where one of Mr. Savory's plateaus, parking areas, then goes to a dirt road going into the woods. And the bordering vegetated wetlands that has an intermittent stream or flow path associated with it, comes down and drops out of the woods into a gully that is constructed on the edge of Mr. Savory's parking lot. So at that point, there is a 100-foot buffer zone that is projected from the forested bordering vegetated wetlands and that intermittent stream channel. That 100-foot buffer zone extends onto Mr. Savory's lot. Mr. Savory is proposing, and I'm sorry, I may get the dimensions wrong here, but for rough purposes, we'll say a 30 by 100-foot slab garage building that would be at a minimum 45 feet or more within the buffer zone, so at least 45 feet away from where that intermittent stream channel and forested wetlands drops out of the woods and onto Mr. Savory's parking lot and storm drainage channel that then conducts it along the side of his property. Now, this wetland system was shown as jurisdictional and was jurisdictional under an order of conditions issued to Gateway Realty Trust for the Forest Ridge project. I'm not sure that that order is still open and active. But Mr. Savory is asking what to file, either a notice of intent or a request to determine applicability for his proposed slab garage building, because it is in the buffer zone. Normally, I would say a notice of intent, but I wanted to check with the commission because of the following facts. The garage is being constructed in what previously has been graded and already developed as part of his parking area. It's a gravel parking area. So there's no vegetation clearing. There's no previously undeveloped portion of his lot that's being cleared or altered for this. It's solely going to have some excavation for the purposes of putting in the slab, and then I believe it's either a prefabricated shell, steel shell building that's going to be put on it. So,
But you're gonna get much different runoff from a
Right.
roof than you do from a gravel.
so I've already told him to anticipate having to deal with crushed stone infiltration trenches or whatever, because basically compacted gravel is just, a hair difference from paved parking lot area. But I wanted to check in with you folks because I didn't know whether, an RDA or whether a notice of intent. I was really going back and forth on it because of the fact that it's previously altered area, already developed, and it's 45 feet minimum away from the resource area, and would have probably no potential to have any type of appreciable impact other than the fact if the runoff from the building isn't appropriately infiltrated, it's gonna contribute more water to the storm drainage gully where this intermittent stream goes down into.
Did he indicate what the building's gonna be used for?
No, I didn't specifically ask him, but since he's got vehicles and it's a garage, I'm assuming it's going to garage.
Yeah,
He sells some
buys
fleet
used
vehicles.
trucks, tractors, you see a lot of bucket trucks there,
Yeah.
and there's probably some place for them to bring them in, work on them, paint them up and something like that.
He's had trailers back there, big trailers.
You got a stormwater management permit as well?
No, because this amount of disturbance isn't anywhere near 20,000 square feet. He has I wanna say site assignment, that's not right, a site suitability, whatever the permit is from the planning board.
So the question is,
Special
can we-
permit for his site development.
what we would try to regulate, what we would typically put into the permit, can we do that just as well with an RDA as we can with a notice of intent?
Right.
And what we're talking about is infiltration concerns and the like, and really nothing else.
Right. And normally, that would be a notice of intent application.
Yes.
To allow us to, first off, make sure that the appropriate BMPs are utilized, and the fact that there's an ongoing maintenance program that we can specify as an ongoing perpetual condition, which we cannot do through an RDA.
Probably, if he's going to do maintenance work inside that garage, we probably need to have some conditions with regard to storage of solvents and all sorts of other things.
Yeah.
Can we do that in an RDA?
Not that really has the same type of enforceability.
Well, maybe.
But I would also, say that we should probably defer real specifics of that to the fire chief, whose job it is to regulate that stuff.
Well, we wouldn't want any interior drains disposing of things.
Well, yes, yeah, and so for sure, you could certainly prohibit, any type of floor drain, and you could solely say that, all requirements per the fire chief or something like that for handling of paints and solvents and stuff. I mean, because that's usually who does do the regulations, because he has the ability to actually do site visits and enter the building to enforce compliance of that. I don't have any ability to enter a building, nor am I that conversant in everything that needs to be done with paints and solvents. This is not in our zone 2.
Right, it's just
In case-
outside. Yeah.
Just, I hadn't said that, but.
But, so let's say the swale that exists now, is that being maintained? Do you know?
Yes. As part of the planning board permit. Oh, this is how I kind of found out about this, and to be very honest with you, until recently, I didn't realize about the upgradient resource areas that had been delineated on the Forest Ridge project. I didn't realize that this is where,
It dumps.
yeah, this is where the down gradient flow ends up going.
Yeah.
I've got another question that's,
Now, I mean, the good news is that there isn't any loss of jurisdiction here. Because under the Wetlands Protection Act, upgradient intermittent streams are not protectable or regulated under the Wetlands Protection Act. But we have bordering vegetated wetlands that has been delineated on the Forest Ridge property. And that intermittent stream channel, even though it goes into the drainage gully along the parking lot of Mr. Savory's place, enters a drain inlet and then goes through underground conduit and connects to the stormwater system of Route 1, and then goes across Route 1 and discharges into bordering vegetated wetlands on the other side, that provides the connectedness
That's where I kinda figured it was.
that gives us jurisdictional authority of those bordering vegetated wetlands, because they are bordering where the down gradient intermittent stream channel connects them.
Right.
That extends regulatory authority to them. They are not cut off and orphaned.
Right.
Can that discharge across Route 1 be considered going into the headwaters of Bachelor
That's
Brook?
all brook.
Well, more than likely does, although I would have to specifically look it up, but it's the same catch basin system that we recently had Mass DOT contact us about to do some maintenance work that we work with them on that.
Okay, another question, is this the same Savory that owns the, for better, lack of a better term, quickly comes to mind?
The facility on Main Street,
Yes,
Yep.
it's
Just
his
some-
son.
which is basically an auto junkyard,
Right.
among other things.
Yes.
Well, to get back to the question you pose, I think I would say notice of intent. So I'd like to have more options available
I was kinda
For-
leaning to that
for
initially.
permanent conditions and
Yeah.
perpetual conditions and things like that. This is kind of our last chance at regulating this, you might say.
Well, I think,
And
you
it
know,
is- it
again, the
is-
heightened awareness of stormwater
Right.
and, you know, the fact that it can have down gradient negative consequences if not handled appropriately on the site where it's originating.
And the fact that there are significant gradients involved, so, you know, you gotta think about these things. It's not, it may be a flat site as far as it goes, but its water is
It's tiered.
definitely not gonna stay there, it's
Right.
gonna move. So,
I agree.
that's my thought.
I agree with Doug on that.
Okay,
We-
that's what I'll
All right.
provide them with feedback.
We'd always had the option in the determination of applicability request to take it out of that and require
But that's just more
a
paperwork for
notice
them.
of intent, so it theoretically can be seen by him as saving a
Right.
step in the process.
Right, exactly.
Well, again, I was having a conversation with this consultant and, you know, where you folks were meeting, I thought this would be a good opportunity.
Excellent opportunity.
And I
applaud your sensitivity to the possibility.
Well, I just kept looking at it from two different, you know,
Well, it's-
perspectives and.
It's also really good to have these conversations among us once in a while, because it's not the level that the commission is usually involved in, but it's kind of, it's useful to think that way, to learn to think that way. All right, anything else?
That's, I believe, all that I can think of.
How's that, 9:32, and we didn't start till Judy got dressed.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you, Judy, that was really, above and beyond.
The call.
If I were not attending a meeting and had already
Been settled in.
been settled in,
Before you run, we need a motion to adjourn.
Oh, boy.
I
You
would have.
can, you have to
Kind of.
stay, I got
Well, I'd already determined there was nothing on TV tonight.
Might have been a different result if there was
Wasn't
something
there a
worth
soccer
watching.
game where it is?
Possibly.
Kurt
Right.
Turner has moved and
There
Sam
a
has
motion?
seconded the motion.
There is a motion
to
and a
adjourn.
second. I have a motion to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm not sure, but I think we can vote on
Can we?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
that. Pretty administrative. Yeah, Cookies didn't
So on
sound
that
too
note, you guys